Hey guys, Nick here from Shot Blast, and today I'm going to show you how to make this netted leather plant hanger using very little leather and very few tools. Super easy project, so let's do it. Alright, this project is super easy. The only things you're going to need are a piece of leather that needs to have a big enough surface area for the pot you want to fit it to. You need to have an X-Acto knife. Make sure it has a nice clean blade on it. Those are always much better to use. And then these calipers?
Compass.
I don't know what these are called. But this is all you need for this project. It's super easy. Such good results for such little requirement for materials. And you need a ruler. So there's that. So this is my piece of scrap leather. First thing you're gonna do is decide how wide you want it. And typically you're gonna want this to be about 1 inch to 2 inches wider than the pot you want to have it wrap around. So lucky for me, I already know where the center of this hide is. And we're gonna use our little caliper
Compass.
to mark that circle out on the hide. Make sure I'm still in the center here. Boom. Okay, next step. I know that the base of my planter needs to be 5.5 inches. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to adjust my calipers to be 2 3/4 of an inch, because obviously 2 3/4 of an inch multiplied by 2 is 5.5. So get that measurement, mark that. Perfect, boom. This is the part we're not gonna cut. So from here, the cool thing is all we have to do now is keep adjusting our calipers.
Seriously, bro.
1/4 of an inch. Now the reason I'm doing 1/4 of an inch is because this hide is roughly 1/4 of an inch thick. And the reason we're doing it the same thickness as the hide is because it'll look more like a net that way. And the thickness will correspond better with the width of the cut, if that makes sense. Boom, there we go. Our next step is gonna be deciding where we're gonna make these cuts. That's how many cuts I want to make on a single piece to make it look like the right netting style. So the idea here is we're gonna take our calipers.
Come on, dude.
We are going to change these now to be 1/4 of an inch. So the idea here is this 1/4 inch is gonna be the mark that doesn't get cut. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna center it up over the line, and we're just gonna stab it in. Boom, 2 little marks. We're doing that all the way around. Make sure you keep track of what line you're marking on. Obviously we're marking on the first line in because the outside line is just the one we're gonna cut to get the shape. So we only need to mark these outside rings here. And just to save us all some time, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this circle out. So we made those marks on the first line. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna take the same marking, make sure it's 1/4 of an inch, and we're gonna go every other line and we're gonna make those marks on those existing lines. So boom, skip a line, boom. You probably won't be able to see what I'm doing on camera, but basically I'm going every other line and marking where these 2 dots are. All right, now that we have this, we have all of our different lines marked out, we're going to add in more crosses. So we're gonna go back to get our ruler again, measure from where the edge of the leather and that line meet to the other one. 4 inches for me, so I'm gonna mark 2 inches here. And I'm just gonna go around the whole thing again and mark the center of these things. All right, now we're gonna take the ruler. We're gonna connect those lines again. We're gonna take our things again, and on the lines we didn't mark yet, we're going to do the opposite lines. So the ones that we skipped, now we're gonna mark. So I'm gonna start at 2 in, skip a line, mark it, skip a line, mark it. Same process, just different lines. All right, now we've got all those marked. So this is really easy. Now what we're gonna do is follow one of the lines and you're gonna cut from dot to dot. So we're gonna just make an incision that would go from here to here. But the catch is that actually I made this large because my leather wasn't very long. What we're gonna do is actually we're gonna cut the first 2 rings of this completely around a circle so we have 2 leather rings. So let's do that right now. So now I'll explain to you why we cut these rings off all the way. That's because before our piece of leather was small and short, right? Let's see if I can find it. All right, here it is. This was the piece of leather we cut it from. All right, so even if we didn't use all of this leather, this hide is only this long or maybe even this long if we're lucky. But by cutting these outer rings off, what I can do now, chop it in half, and look at how much more leather I have to use as string to tie up the planter. So that's what these are for. Boom. Now we've got really long cord out of a much shorter piece of leather. We basically just doubled the length of leather we actually had. And now we have our strings. Cool. So now it's time for the fun part. All right, following the marks we made earlier, all we're gonna do is we're gonna start on the outer line at one of the dots, cut along the curve, stopping at the first of the second round of dots. All right, we've made all of our first cuts. So we're gonna go down to the next line and just repeat the same thing on this line, cut from dot to dot, skipping over the center part you do not want to cut. Right there. So this pattern we cut using the lines and the dots, imagine it kind of like a brick pattern. You've got these lines that follow an equal perimeter around the circle, but the following line, the next line, is centered with the previous line. So therefore, in that case, it's like kind of a brick pattern. And the reason you want that is because that's how you're gonna get this netted style kind of formation. All right, we did it. So we've cut all of our things. Now check this out. Pull it apart. Gonna push it down. Look at that. There is our planter. Take your strings that you cut earlier, tie them up. Look at that. How freaking cool is that? All right, let's get the pot. This is beautiful baby boy we're gonna put in here. Look at how freaking sick that looks. That just looks so cool, come on.